God of the universe, maker of the stars. Who am I that you would know my name?
Welcome to episode 86 of Life on Purpose with your favorite brain nurse, Alex Stiles, and the person who never wants to see a brain, Mike Clayton. So, there's things about your life that I just would never want to enter into.
Fair. I have, in fact, seen a brain.
hmm
Part of my job. It's
hmm
exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, that's people don't really know this, but that's kind of like your personality actually that goes along with, it, yeah.
I do fit. I fit right in with the Morbidites and the whole brain
hmm
nurse community.
hmm hmm
Yeah, we say
hmm
that you don't have to be crazy to work there. We'll teach you.
That'll work. And we've been off for a couple of weeks. We had Sukkot in the middle of that, and I would just tell people right up front that the reason your voice is maybe a little bit raspy and weak is because you've been going through some issues regarding
hmm
your breathing and stuff, and so
hmm
prayers for Alex would be sure appreciated during this time, I'm sure.
Absolutely. As my old pastor used to say, I need the prayers and you need the practice.
That's right. That's right. I stole that from somebody a long time ago myself. Well,
Mm.
Alex, I was on the road during Sukkot, and we had a few of our congregation went to your house, and
Yes.
basically, when Kathy called me and we were talking about you had taught, you and Chris, and I was pretty much coming back thinking I'm going to have to find a new congregation because these guys have they've taken over in a good way, very good, but I got a little briefing from my wife on what you were talking about, and that's going to introduce a 2 week series for us for Life on Purpose. So, with that as an intro, go, sir.
Absolutely. That was an absolutely fantastic week there. Chris Sharp, man, just loved the stuff he brought out. He gave me some oh ouch moment, and it was his turn to cost me some sleep.
Yeah, he's good at
Lay
that,
awake at
isn't
night thinking
he?
on that teaching. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh man.
yeah.
So, absolutely. So I took it, just straight back to Genesis that day. It's absolutely an amazing time, an amazing place to start.
hmm
What a concept too. An amazing place to start. So many foundational teachings are in there.
Oh yeah.
And I, I entered into that Shabbat teaching that day with this idea that it's easy to lose track of the things that are most important in life, right? It's easy to lose our focus.
Hmm.
But there's one person who absolutely never loses track of what is important, and that is the enemy,
Yeah,
Hasatan.
yeah. Boy, that's the statement right there. He
And
never
that was, yeah.
loses focus on, and anybody wants to know what his focus is, go to Isaiah chapter 14. I will ascend unto the throne of the Most High. That is his focus.
hmm
So, yeah.
Absolutely. I didn't particularly like going there. There were some ouches and oofs around the room as I with that. I'm like, yeah, I didn't like that being my thought either.
hmm
But if we look into the garden, into those first few chapters
hmm
of Genesis, we find what is most important to Hasatan, to the enemy, because those are the things that he attacked in the garden.
hmm
And that which was attacked in the garden were the foundational things that remain true there and remain true now. So we say, and it is true, praise him, that God does not change.
hmm
There is another interesting thing that man's nature does not change either. I don't mean man doesn't change. We're fickle. We go back on our word. We're good one day, we're bad the other, and that's those of us that are trying.
Yeah.
But our nature doesn't change. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
our nature doesn't change. And so
Mhm.
those same tactics, those same techniques that worked in the garden, work today. And in his journey to ascend into the heavens and to overthrow God, Hasatan's not out to reinvent the wheel. Okay.
No.
He's using the same techniques there in the garden that he used today. And he opened up. We should, of course, go from the beginning and we'll get to where we're going to focus on. But he opened up initially with very first words of Satan ever recorded are, "Did God really say?"
Yeah.
And, your son, Daniel Clayton, said something very profound one time, and I hope he knows the amount of sleep he has cost me at times with this statement, where he said that you must answer three questions in deciding what you're going to do about your creator. Your first question is, does God exist?
Yeah.
Right? Is there an all-powerful, omnipotent creator
Hmm.
of the universe, and
Hmm.
does he exist?
Hmm.
The second is this God good? All right, so he exists, but is he a good being?
Mm.
And the third question is he good to you?
Wow.
Each of these steps force you to change your entire paradigm, your entire perspective on life.
So true.
So when Hasatan, when the enemy's trying to pull you away from God, he doesn't walk up and start with trying to convince you God isn't real. He didn't walk up to Adam and Eve and be like, "Hey, this guy doesn't exist."
Yeah.
It doesn't work. They were literally walking with him in the garden.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
not
the
what he
guy that I was
attacked.
walking with last night. Yeah. He didn't,
Yeah,
he didn't
last night
exist.
he
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, it also doesn't work, you know, when Hasatan's out to attack you, he's
Hmm.
not going to attack you immediately with, "Hey, Mike Clayton, God doesn't exist."
Yeah.
That's not where he's going. But he'll start with the word. He'll start with, "Did God really say?"
Hmm.
So because if you can throw doubt on the word, then you go in the reverse. You start going, "Well, if he didn't truly say this, then well maybe God's not good to me." And then well maybe not God's not good.
Yeah.
And maybe God doesn't exist. And that's how you go all the way to atheism.
Mm. And
Um,
I actually know numerous. I'll see a couple of these guys tomorrow that they call themselves atheists, but it really goes down back to that they had an experience in their early lives in a religious organization. I won't say which one, but they had an experience in which the people that they were encountering
mm-hmm,
basically were teaching them that God is not good and he's not good to you because all he
mm-hmm.
wants to do, he's just sitting up there with his little, kind of like the whack-a-mole at the fair with the
Yeah,
little hammer thing,
yeah,
he's just
yeah.
waiting for one of these human beings to pop up and so he can whack us on the head. And so
Mm-hmm.
they've gone from that place of being hurt by religion into, well, I don't believe there's a God, which I don't really believe they believe that.
There.
Okay.
Um,
Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So, um, no, that's a fair thing. Religion can absolutely take you away, but
Hmm.
as you've said before, you can't let, even if you don't like religion, I think most of religion's terrible.
Yeah.
Most of organized religion, most of it ends up with, man getting in the way.
Hmm.
But even if you say, "I don't like religion," well, you still got to do something about, you really should do something about this creator God that made you.
Hmm.
Like, that's a pretty big subject you should address in your life.
Yeah.
And when you reach that, if you're able to come all the way to that final kind of 1-2, I kind of see it as two sides of the same coin, that God is good to you and his word means what he says it means. Well, then you got to change your life. Because then if you look at all of these things that he's written, these commands, and then you completely believe that they are for your good, well, wow, I need to dig into this Bible. I need to pay attention to what it says. I need to
Hmm.
live my life that way because I literally have an all powerful, all knowing being that says, "I care enough about you that I wrote you a book to how to tell you how to
Hmm.
make your life better."
There's an aspect right there that to have a belief in a God, Elohim, the creator, however we want to title that, to the end result is that if he is good and if he is good to me, then there is a requirement from me in this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I don't like what I see that he's requiring, then we start backing up the process once again. So
Right.
it's basically is a saying I don't want to be responsible to him in any way.
Hmm.
So I start to make up my own religion, which is what Eve did when, and I might be getting ahead of you here, but when Eve was asked, did he really say? And
Hmm.
Eve said, well, yeah, he told us we were not to eat of the tree, nor were we to touch the tree.
Right. And that wasn't the original command.
No,
It was
because
just not to eat of it.
in fact, they had to touch it because they were required to be the caretaker for it.
Right. They were required to cultivate the
Yeah,
tree, to be the caretakers for it, to both guard it and cultivate it, but not to eat of its fruit.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And so we look across America right now, and I can specifically, of course, say America. It's where I live, but
Hmm.
I see what little I can see. It seems to be true across the world that God's under attack, woman are under attack, and man are each under attack, all
Hmm.
in individual ways. And I think we've addressed, basically there's the foundation of how God is under attack. You know, those are kind of Satan's five techniques I see there. The three of, does he exist? Is he good? Is he good to you? Does his word say what it means?
Hmm.
And then the final thing, really, which would be a program in itself, is that Satan's greatest lie is convincing the world that he himself does not exist.
Yeah,
No one
yeah,
truly believes the devil exists. I say no one. In general, that's his greatest lie there.
yeah, it is.
So those are the manners I think in which God is under attack. And I say without joking, God's quite capable of defending himself.
Hmm.
But I want to really focus in, this podcast, I want to focus a manner in which how women are under attack that I see.
Hmm.
And that was a very powerful subject. And in the future, I will then want to focus in on our next podcast. Our second part will be focusing on how
Hmm.
God attacks man and our
Hmm.
role. We're going to say a prayer. My voice holds out here.
Yeah,
Uh,
may it be.
so, amen. So, one of the first things I feel that Satan said to woman was, you are not good enough as you are, or you are not enough as
Mm.
you are. Because if you look at what he offered her in the fruit, he says, look at it, you know, how it's desirable. So there was an attack there. You don't have everything you need, but that it was desirable for making one wise, and you will be like God.
Hmm.
You were more. And you have to consider the implication of this. Understand that in this setting, you have to consider Eve was perfect at this time. So, Adam missed an opportunity. He's the only man truly in recorded history who could have said to his wife, you are perfect the way you are.
Hmm.
I can't say that to Mary. Kathy listens to this program so you can't say that about her. But you have to ponder this, that the first attack on woman was, you're not good enough.
Hmm.
And
There's
I
something
see,
lacking in you. Yeah.
yes, yes. And I see anxiety and self doubt in every woman I ever meet.
Hmm.
I feel it's one of the most profound things that is attacked in this, um, because, well, and let me just toss it back to you. Why do you think that was the direct thing that he attacked?
If you can, so I'm going to slightly disagree with you on
Okay.
the fact that she was perfect. Okay.
Okay.
And I
Mm-hmm.
actually taught this morning, or
Okay.
no, yesterday morning. Okay. I get my
Okay.
days mixed up. I actually taught this yesterday. If I were to take a bar of silver and look at it, it says 99.9%.
Ah.
Sure. Okay. Now,
Uh-huh.
you, as our favorite brain nurse, you have Lysol or whatever you guys use, and it says it kills 99.9% of germs. I've
Indeed.
always wondered what that, what that little thing is that it
I
can't
live in
kill.
terror. I live in terror of that 0.01% of
Yeah,
germs,
yeah, I
sir.
know,
Those are
I
the
know.
ones I'm afraid of.
Yeah. So there was in my opinion, there was a slight what we would term imperfection.
Hmm.
But the imperfection is what made the person perfect in the Father's eyes. And that imperfection was the ability to choose.
Free will.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
our free will is an imperfection, but without that imperfection, we cannot be the perfect creation.
Because
Because
if we
without
were
that
for,
that imperfection of choice, we cannot love. We cannot choose
right,
to love. We cannot choose
right.
to obey. So there was that little bit in there, and he attacked. Hasatan knows the point zero 0.01, and he attacked the place of choice with her and made her think that because of that imperfection that the father put in there, that she was now lacking in something and needed something else.
Hmm. I like that. I like that very much. Um, right. And I believe very much that one of the main reasons that he puts down women, because you don't see him, we'll cover more in the manner in which he attacks men, but he doesn't really attack men in self-doubt and anxiety. We have them, right, but that's not the primary way he attacks men.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the reasons that he attacks women, tells them they are nothing, is that in a sense, hear me out, women are more powerful than Hasatan in a manner because God gave an aspect of himself to women that Hasatan does not have, and that God gave women the ability to create. They can
That,
create life.
absolutely.
Hasatan cannot create anything.
No,
Like you look at him as being so powerful, but he literally cannot create anything. He can only corrupt.
he
We
can
see this in the
counterfeit.
corruption of religion. He can counterfeit
Yeah,
and
and
create
corrupt.
corrupted
Yeah,
images. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Which really, Alex, begins to make sense of something. We just went through, and we're 20 something minutes in the program before I mentioned the elections, which I think
Right.
is really good. But this election, I was in Israel in February, and a friend of mine said, Israeli, he says, so what is going to be the topic of this election? Is it going to be Israel? Is it going to be, inflation or whatever? And I said, one of the main ones is going to be abortion.
Yes.
And he's like, what? Huh? I said, yeah, it's going to be abortion. And
Hmm.
it's what has become very fascinating to me in a terrible sense is that the main proponents of, of abortion are women.
Yes. Yes.
Many women voted based upon the so-called freedom to choose. Now it's called
Hmm.
reproductive rights because they're trying to cloud the issue. I have to tell you, Alex, people might not know this, but I am pro-choice. And I believe I want that baby that's in that womb to be able to make a choice.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I stand firmly as pro-choice. But why? So a woman has the ability to create.
Yes.
The most amazing thing in that a womb and an ear look the same. Um, there's so many things about the heart beating on the 18th day, which is 18 is the number of life in Hebrew, and it goes on and on and on and on. And so the very gender that is given the ability to be as God,
Yes.
okay, as God. When he said, "You will be like God," she should have looked at him and said, "I already is, dum dum," you know.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah. So the very gender that's given the ability now wants the choice to give away that ability.
Well, I mean, what greater way can Hasatan attack that ability to create life than to say it is not life? Like, that's what's attacked, right? Like, oh, it's not a life yet. It's not a baby yet.
It's a fetus, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And,
which by the way, you know more Latin than I do. The word for baby in Latin is fetus.
I'd have to go back on my Latin and brush it up.
I heard that the other
Like,
day.
yeah. So it's a proper and correct medical term for a specific days in the trimester that is medically correct that at that point it is called a fetus.
Hmm.
But in no way does the medical term fetus define living being or not. I hear it used there, and so it bugs me when it gets used outside its medical terminology. If you can imagine a nurse being bugged by a medical term being used wrong, but absolutely, what better way uh, to degrade and to demoralize, to put down the gift and value of creating life, the ability to create life, than to say it isn't a life.
Hmm.
And because then, if it's not a life, you have no responsibility towards that being, right?
And
It's not a living being.
yeah, and I don't want to stop right here, Alex, and make a very clear statement is that I know I've counseled with women through the years as a pastor that have had an abortion. We're not casting
Hmm.
any type of judgment here. You know, uh, humans make mistakes in their lives. We're in various
Hmm.
places, and sometimes the consequences of those become very difficult. And so we're not
Absolutely.
here to cast any type of judgment on someone, but just to bring out the maybe a way to redirect the anger.
Absolutely.
Okay. I've
Absolutely.
counseled a lot of women who are angry at themselves. You need to redirect the anger to the one
Mhm.
who, from the garden, began this process of trying to take that creativity away from you.
Absolutely. And I feel that that takes us to the second thing that is often attacked is not just a anxiety and doubt, but that self-doubt and self-loathing. I see many women who end up trapped in cycles of guilt,
Hmm.
of everything is my fault. And I ponder that a lot. I I see it, of course, very much in my own relationship with my wife. And I have jokingly at times, in attempt to snap her out of it, said, "Well, that's pretty arrogant of you. You mean you managed to make the the car payment late and you managed to break the roof and you managed to make the storm come through? You managed all of that? Every bit of that was your fault?" And I say that jokingly to try to, snap her out of it, but that's an interesting fact that a woman who is caught in self-doubt will find a way to blame herself for absolutely everything that goes wrong in her household.
Hmm.
And that is a cycle of self-destructive guilt uh, that is Hasatan's attack on the house and tearing the house apart. Like, excuse me.
Interesting you say cycle. I'll let you recover from that one. Interesting you say cycle because I think you were here when I taught on uh, Psalm 23 when it says, "Lead me in the paths of righteousness for your name's sake." And that's like a shell. I actually had a shell with me when I did that, and the word path is the word cycle. And so the our life through a year from Passover to through the festivals and all this, these are cycles we go through. Women have a cycle that they go through, all right, but each one of those cycles is to draw us closer to the creator. Whereas if you the of course the enemy not being able to create can only counterfeit and corrupt. He can take that cycle and invert it.
So each
uh,
spiral you go
a
takes you
spiral
farther and
down.
farther away.
Yeah, instead of a spiral up, you become, as a person I knew years ago used to say, I get into these crazy cycles in my
Hmm.
head, and it's like a whirlpool.
I understand that.
Hmm. And you stay in a whirlpool long enough, you're going to be at the bottom of it drowning. And
Hmm.
so breaking free of those things, um, we had this morning, Kathy said, hey, the printer quit. Okay, well, actually, there's a piece of paper in the printer. She couldn't get it out. I couldn't get it out. She took it to the store, and the guy said, well, you just open this thing and pull the paper out, and 32 bucks later, okay, hey, we got the printer back. Uh, there have been thousands, literally thousands of copies that have gone through that printer and have not jammed. And so, Kathy could have said, oh, yeah, I'm the one that did it. No, no, this is part of humanity. Things happen, you know?
Yes.
And so we can't get into that spiral that takes us down and tries to destroy us.
I want to focus on one specific aspect of that.
Hmm.
And that is that many times I feel that specifically women in particular will be attacked in that God is angry with me. I've sinned, and this is why this bad thing happened in my life.
Hmm.
You know, uh, I sinned, and that's why. Mary be like, I've been a bad person, and that's why Alex is sick, and we didn't get a full paycheck.
Mm.
It could be something along that lines, and I find that, I don't want a different subject, but often there's very much those who are trapped in the worst parts of Catholicism will be trapped in that cycle of you're in guilt, come here, listen to this cycle and feel better. You're guilty, you come back through this cycle.
Hmm.
But as a pastor, if you come up and say, there's a few verses I think I would go to, but I want to pass it to you. Woman says, woman who's, trying to live her life right, right? She's in there, she's studying the Bible, she comes to your service, she's like, I've sinned and that's why all these awful things are happening to us. What do you say to that as a pastor who?
Okay, it's actually a very complex but yet very simple concept to consider. It is the difference between condemnation and conviction. Okay, so it's like a road you're going down, and you get and it says dead end, and you keep going to the end, and there's no way out, and you end up over a cliff. All right. The other is dead end ahead, U turn, there make U turn here. That's conviction.
Mm-hmm.
So I have people that I've talked with over the years. I just know that I've sinned. Okay, what did you do? I don't know. Okay, but you said, yes, I know that I've sinned. I know that I have, I've committed the unpardonable sin. And a friend of mine, that's how we met was on that one. Okay. It doesn't say what the unpardonable sin actually is, but I know that I have made it. And and he said, I know that I've committed that, and there's no way back. I said, then why in the world did God bring you to me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, if you've made the unpardonable sin, why in the world would you be sitting here talking to me? God doesn't waste my time, and if there's no way for redemption for you, I mean, I'm kind of like the last person He would have brought you to. So condemnation is always a dead end. Conviction is okay. I know what I've done, and now I know how to turn around, and I
Mm-hmm.
know how to get back to where I was. That's conviction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know, I've I can't think a couple of crazy kind of weird examples, but everybody knows that when you come to a place and you know you've done something wrong, the Spirit of God will tell you what you done wrong.
Right. He's not
He's
up to
not just going to
ambiguity.
say you've sinned.
Mm-hmm.
Your
He's not a
child
god of
comes.
chaos and confusion.
Yeah, one of your
Sorry.
boys
He's.
comes to
Mm-hmm.
you and says, hey, Dad, I did something wrong. Well, what is it? Well, I don't know. You're gonna look at him and go, really? Now, number one is you're lying, which is wrong. Number two is you just got a bad self-image here of you. You
Exactly.
got let me rephrase that. You now have a wrong self-image of yourself and a wrong self-image of you as their father.
And a wrong self-image. And in that scenario, to take that, you have a wrong self-image of God if you
Mm-hmm.
think he's just standing up there throwing punishments down on you because you once did something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did he send his son to die for you and forgive you of your sins, or did he not? And if he did, then that what you've done wrong is forgotten. And if what you have done wrong is forgotten, then he's not punishing you for what you've done wrong because he does not remember your wrongdoing.
Yeah. He says, I have, as he says, I have cast it in the sea of forgetfulness. As one pastor said, he put up a no fishing sign.
I love
And
that.
so
Clearly a Southern Baptist.
that's right. That's right. And so actually, that was Oklahoma. Uh,
Oh, okay.
but yeah,
Okay.
but we come to him over and over and over again. And, well, I don't know if he's forgiven me. Well, what does the word say?
Mm-hmm.
The word says, if we sin and if we confess our sin, he is faithful and just to forgive us of our sin, and the blood of his son Yeshua cleanse us for as us from all righteousness. There's no like parentheses in the center of that, or caveats, or
Mm-mm.
footnotes of forgives us of our sin, except for these are all the things that 0.1% of impurity that makes us pure in his sight, because we can do choice. These are the things that take us to a place and ended up being, the destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why when Yeshua was led out into the wilderness, the famous three temptations. And by the way, he wasn't just tempted three times, okay? It was a lifestyle. The enemy was going to tempt him every single day, every single moment of his life. But when Yeshua was tempted, he didn't come up with his own opinion. He said the word. He quoted the
Absolutely.
word back.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody said, when the enemy comes knocking at your door, answer it with the word.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I will also point out, worth considering, that Yeshua quoted the word to Hasatan, even with Hasatan quoted the word out of context or incorrectly, if I may,
Hmm.
to him. So when Hasatan attempted to corrupt the word, Yeshua wasn't fooled because he'd read the whole word. And
Because he
there is
was the
a,
word.
well, he was the word, right? Trying to put it in perspective for you. He was the word already.
Yeah, that's
But for
always been a
you,
fun one.
sir,
The word read
yeah.
the word. Hmm.
I love that. I love that. Yes,
Yeah.
the word went to the synagogue and sat there as they taught the word, and then he stood up and taught it himself. He
Hmm.
taught them himself.
Hmm.
But I love that. I want to point out that the word itself is misquoted to us many times and is used many times incorrectly. Um, but you don't have to worry about being fooled by someone misquoting the word if you've studied it yourself.
Hmm. So let's go to another aspect of this. And
Absolutely.
this is an aspect I see in women, is this whole thing of perfection and attractiveness, physical perfection.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. It's funny, or not funny. It's interesting how the enemy just slides things in to
Hmm.
to give you that self-image. Most young girls have played with Barbies.
Yeah.
All right.
Which is the most unrealistic body image ever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, talk about the perfect 10. Okay. She's like
Mm.
11 or 12. Totally unreachable. Okay. But you play
Hmm.
with Barbies starting out in life, and then that's your image of what the perfect is. And then when you grow up and don't have that,
Hmm.
then of course, you're going to start comparing yourself. And
Absolutely.
then, God forbid, if your husband or whatever is involved in pornography and
Absolutely.
and brings that image into the relationship,
Hmm.
I mean, crazy cycles there. It goes
Absolutely.
into it's just destructive. I mean, I'm not going to get
Mm.
into all of the, the details here, but it is destructive.
Absolutely. And see, there's an interesting, uh, my grandfather had this poster on his wall of old cowboy sayings, and one of them, several of them stuck with me, but one of them I truly loved, and it says that beauty is skin deep, but ugly is to the bone.
Mm, true.
And, it was put up there as just, old cowboy wisdom, but I'm like, there's a lot of wisdom in that.
Hmm.
Just because this woman's a 10 pretty doesn't mean it's someone that's not going to wreck your life.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I've seen some, if we're going to use the numerical system, okay, I've seen some 10s out there that I don't want to spend 5 seconds talking to.
Mm,
All right. Like it's a pleasure to see you. It's a shame it's not as much of a pleasure to hear you talk.
yeah. Yeah.
Terrible, but there's this, so right, but there is that attack that just because someone looks beautiful, that this is what makes them desirable.
Well,
And,
and this is all over the media.
media doesn't help, Hollywood,
Yeah. The
um,
the so-called stars. Okay.
that don't even look the way they do in the movies.
Oh
Like
no.
they don't look like that in person. Mm.
No. No. There's a lot of work done there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
these are not pretty people.
No,
You know,
no, they're not.
yeah, but people are infatuated with stuff like with Bachelorette, and I don't I mean that's not even allowed to be. I didn't want to see a commercial for that in my house. Okay. Uh,
Mhm.
if you put a picture up of Kardashian, I wouldn't know who it is and don't want to know because I know
Mm.
enough about these people behind the scenes that I would not want to ever spend a moment of my life, even in casual conversation with them. These are,
Yeah,
as you
there's
said,
scenario.
ugly people.
Mm. Absolutely. The scenario to consider, and I'll move to the next topic. But, we say we wouldn't invite these people into our homes, but if you're playing them on your television, on your TV, you have them right there sitting next to you in the living room. And
Yeah.
perhaps that's a harsh way to look at it, but I think it's something we should consider
Mhm.
when we talk about things we would and would not allow in our house. But if they're playing on your television, they're right there in your living room with you.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing all this stuff come out of Epstein and P Diddy and if those lists ever get out publicly, it's going to be a mess. Um, One of my favorite movies of all times is Castaway. I love that.
Hmm.
Look what I have created. I love that movie. But what
Hmm.
I have found out about the lead actor in that, it came on the
Hmm.
other day and I can't watch it because, as you
Yeah,
said, I'm not allowing that person into my house.
absolutely.
Because when I allow that person into my house, I also allow all of the spirits that are attached to that person into my house.
Absolutely. We've discussed a great deal of the things of, to not do. I want to focus a few minutes on many of the examples of, that there, as you've taught, there's a lion inside of you, let it out. One of the things I look, and one of the interesting psychological differences between men and women, despite all the jokes about, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, there's not actually a huge number of psychological differences. It's just that the differences we have are extreme. The
Hmm.
few differences they are very make us vastly different.
Yeah.
Um, One of the interesting things I've found is that women know what they want in their life. And we'll discuss this in men, because this applies something I generally apply more to men because men don't know what they want and they have to discover it. And I want to go into that when we
Hmm.
next week. But women know what they want in life. I work with, I'm the last guy you'll talk to that has any doubts of what women are capable of in the job and out there in a job. I work with,
Hmm.
it's still a 5 to 6, like a 5 or 6 to 1 ratio of women to men in the nursing field.
Hmm.
So I see incredibly capable women, doctors, women, RT, respiratory therapists, nurses. You know what I hear over and over and over of these people that've been out there, they've worked, they've done their job. These women be like, I just want to be a stay-at-home mom.
Hmm.
I hear it over and over. And I have also heard nothing that gets more attacked than a woman to stay at home and be a homemaker
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that is mocked and attacked in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And yet so many women know that it's exactly what they want to do,
Mm-hmm.
having proved that they can. They can work. I believe because that's the greatest purpose there. The, you say you're a stay-at-home mom, and like, oh, so you're unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, the spirit of slap comes over me. I'm like, this
Mm-hmm.
woman works more than I ever have.
Mm-hmm.
On my busiest week, I work less than this woman does.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that,
You're talking about
go
that,
ahead.
Alex, and I think we need to go into that more in the next program. I don't want to strain your
Sure.
voice out too much, but I was considering this today, just before the program goes, that how women are looked down upon if they are a stay-at-home mom. And I'm not,
Hmm.
my mother was a single mom. She had to work. She worked a full-time job and then came home and sewed at night. So, I mean, I'm not casting any kind of judgment on anybody
No.
for this, but what we're trying to bring out in male imperfection communication is that the enemy would like you to think that doing the greatest job in the world is inferior to doing a job that is not the greatest job in the world. Okay.
Hmm.
You can, as a nurse, you've gone from hospital to hospital.
Yes.
You've had all kinds of different things. How many of the people at those previous hospitals that you've been at remember Alex Stiles on a daily basis?
Remember me on a daily basis? No.
No, never, never. Okay,
Never. No.
never. Yeah. It used to be that you'd go to work, you'd work for 30, 40 years, you get a gold watch, and you'd go home to die.
Right.
Okay. It's called retirement. You'd go home to die. And that's what you did, which is like, okay, well, I put 30 years in at this company, and you know, somebody else is at my desk that doesn't even know me, doesn't even know I sat in
Hmm.
that chair for 30 years. They threw away my chair and bought them a new one, and I've been asking for a new one for 10 years. It's just all that stuff. But yet, my wife said to me the other day, she says, I think about my mom every day.
Exactly. Exactly. Do not let anyone put down some of the greatest things that you will ever do in your life, which is to be a mom and to be a wife,
Yeah,
will be the greatest things. The greatest things that I can do in my life will be to be a father and a husband.
absolutely.
And that I am not the job that I have. I am a person. I am not a nurse. I am a person who works a job as a nurse.
Hmm. Yeah, well said. Well said. A lot to think about, and we're going to dive more into this whole topic. I'm thinking probably for a few weeks, Alex, not
It
just for
looks like it.
one.
We didn't even get to Proverbs 31, and that's where I was
No,
headed next. I think we definitely need to spend a little time there.
yeah, we're going to go there. What I'd like to do next week actually is talk about this. How did we get to this place in the United States society? Okay,
I'd be very interested
to
from that,
focus
from your
on the United
standpoint.
States,
Mhm.
how do we get to this place in our society that puts down women who desire to choose to stay at home? We're not trying to, I'm not trying to, this is, we're not trying to, beat somebody over the head and drag them by the hair. All right. But if a person desires to stay at home and then can figure out the ability to do that, they should not look down upon themselves, or should they allow anyone else to look down upon themselves?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Absolutely.
All
Mm.
right. Rest up, man. Blessings,
Will do.
health, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
Who am I that you would know my name? What kind of love would walk